Another usual one.
That's hilarious.
Not a problem at all. Excellent. So are we going to do the, are we live now?
Are we live? Yeah.
Most
We'll,
likely.
we'll just do it once or twice so I don't get into too much
He
trouble.
always does this, Robert. He always looks at his Apple Watch. He's always
I do.
live by at least 30
He's-
seconds.
I wait
by
for
the
him to
time
say
he-
that we're live.
It's great.
Yeah, he just wants to show off the fact that he has
Yeah,
got an
exactly.
Apple Watch.
That's
Yes,
true.
I think so.
That's true.
Excellent.
Javid, you can't do this. See, look, I can see.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't.
and while you guys are live on your social media, I'm live on my social media.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
It's just
All
a
right.
little bit of fun. It's just a 10-minute thing anyway.
And I think we're live, so
Yes.
we're good.
Excellent.
Although we won't wait for the watch, and I won't make fun of that. Javid can't do that like we were just
Okay.
doing.
Sounds
But,
good.
he's analog. He likes the analog
hello,
stuff.
everyone. Can you say hi to the folks who
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome to
Hey,
IT
everybody.
Friday. I'm Rob, and I've got my buddy Javid along with me again today. Javid, how you doing?
Hello. Hey, I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, good.
Doing
We've got a
good,
special
doing
guest today, Javid. Hey,
Say that again?
so we got a special guest today.
Yes, very
I need
special
to-
indeed.
Who
Yeah.
is it?
Who is it? Yeah, I don't know. So Rohan, we have Rohan Pinto with us today. And Rohan, it's been a little over a year, I think, since we've had you on last. I think the last time we had you, I had just been tested positive for COVID, I think was the last
Yeah,
time.
and it was the
you were
same
on with
time
us.
where I colored my hair red because it was COVID and I was at home. So
Exactly.
we go from a COVID life to a non-COVID life right now.
Yeah. How things have changed in a year.
Excellent.
Okay, so we've got you on today for a couple of reasons, and just so everybody knows, Rohan's kind of the evil genius here behind the technology that we have here at One Cosmos. He was kind of ground level putting all this stuff together, right? Right, Rohan?
You had to add evil to it, right?
Evil genius.
Not an
yeah.
evil genius. Okay, relax.
Just a genius. Sorry. So the reason why we got Rohan along for the ride today is that we've been to a number of trade shows over the last couple of over the last month, really. May was super busy, and we had lots of questions about blockchain and why are we using it, and how does it work, and why would you do that over something else? And what we wanted to do today was to kind of bring Rohan along to tell us more about kind of the back end technology that we use here at One Cosmos. So, Rohan, I'm gonna set you up with an easy one, and Javid's
Thank you.
here to keep you on time. So that's Javid.
I'm the
He's
timer.
going to ding you if you talk too long.
Yeah,
Right,
using
right,
his
Javid?
analog, watch.
Using his analog watch. Yeah, absolutely. So for those that are unsure, give me the short version of what a blockchain is.
Excellent. I don't know if I can keep it short, but I'll give you my version of what a blockchain is.
Awesome.
And instead of giving you the traditional, it's blocks and a block connects to another block and an audit trail. So let me try to give you a real life example of what a blockchain is all about. So let's assume, Robert, you're Canadian, I'm Canadian, and I was driving over to meet you. And I'm supposed to be meeting you, let's say at 4 p.m. today. However, instead of meeting you at 4 p.m., I end up at your place at 5 p.m. and I blame it on the traffic. And there is absolutely no way for you to be able to go back and identify if I was really caught up in traffic and that's why I was late, or whether I'm just lying to you and making you believe that I was late because I just didn't care enough. However, if you had a system where you could not just look at the time I left my place, but the actual route I took, the distance from my place to your place, and if that map that shows my departure to the arrival at your place has been tampered with in some form, if you have the assurance that it was actually a delay in traffic that caused my delay from point A to point B, you have a very high level of assurance or trust that gets built with this person that you're interacting with, which is me. So the blockchain kind of gives you that ability to trust something inherently without falling into a situation of believing what the person says or believing that I have not tampered with any data along the way, and having the assurance that no matter what I do, what I say, there is absolutely no possible means by which I can tamper with that data or modify that data before I present it to you. So that's what the blockchain is in a non-technical sense of the word.
That was a very good explanation, Rohan. That's excellent.
So I am coming to see you at 5 p.m. today.
Okay, good to know. I'm gonna have to go clean up a little bit, but I'll be ready for you. All right, so we can't talk about blockchain without mentioning crypto, obviously, because a lot of people know blockchain from what's going on with, you know, the crypto world, and you know, there's lots of stories about things going sideways with blockchain in that type of an environment. So we're obviously going to have to just kind of briefly kind of touch on the difference between what kind of a blockchain they use, the crypto guys, versus the kind of blockchain that we use here at One Cosmos. There is a difference in blockchains, as it were, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about? And remember, I'm a marketing guy, so try to, you know, make it easy for me to understand.
I'll try. And I'm going to try and refrain from using the example of Starbucks versus Tim Hortons versus Second Cup Coffee to tell you the difference between what a blockchain versus crypto is. So I'm going to try and refrain from doing that. However, crypto is cryptocurrencies, digital dollar, or whatever you want to call it, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tezos. There are tons of them out there. So cryptocurrency is one facet of what took over the industry. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme that a lot of people believe it to be. It's a digital dollar that can be traded and exchanged between two entities that's non-reputable beyond borders. Now, the technology that powers cryptocurrencies is the blockchain. Now, that does not necessarily mean that cryptocurrency is the only use of what the blockchain was designed to be. The blockchain was designed to be a system that can be audited at any given point in time. Going back to the example of me meeting you at 5 p.m. and saying that I was delayed in traffic, if that cannot be modified, that's irreputable information or data out there. And the second part of it is, apart from it being a system where you cannot tamper with data, you have a very high level of assurance in the ecosystem itself when it comes up to trust. You can trust that the data that resides on the blockchain cannot, not may not would not, cannot be modified by anybody or any individual, including the individual who put the data there. It cannot be modified by any organization or entity that manages the blockchain. For example, we at 1K, we have our backend data stored in a blockchain. You, nor I, nor anybody in this organization has the ability to go and tamper with the data. So when we use the blockchain in the identity space, primarily for allowing a user to verify who he or she is, proof of identity is what we call it. So if you've got data elements sitting on the blockchain that prove that I am Rohan Pinto, residing in Mississauga, aged 52.1 day old.
Oh, that's right. Tomorrow.
No, it was yesterday.
Yesterday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. So you have the assurance that nothing can be modified or tampered with. You inherently trust the ecosystem. When you trust the ecosystem, now the organization or entities or service providers can focus on not the trust layer, but what can be done on top of that. How can this identity be presented from party A to party B? How can party B have the assurance that it is actually Rohan Pinto who's trying to access a system or presenting his identity? That is what blockchain brings to the table. And what we use the blockchain for is not for cryptocurrencies. We do not deal with cryptocurrencies. We want nothing. Cryptocurrencies is like my sour ex-wife. I don't want to deal with it anymore. It's done and gone with. What we are really interested in is the technology that powers something like trust, irrefutability, privacy by design, which is what we have designed our ecosystem around.
Fair enough. So as a marketing guy, I write on our website a lot, private and permissioned blockchain. Tell me what, I shouldn't say tell me what that means. I know what that means, but tell everybody else that's on the session with us today, what is a private and permissioned blockchain? What does that mean?
Okay. So we all are familiar with databases. We have been used to putting data in databases for the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I don't know. You can, maybe Javed can look up the numbers of when database came into being. But regardless, when you put data into a database, it can be modified by the administrator of the system. It can be modified by the organization that owns that database. So even if you have an encrypted database of sorts where you are storing the data in an encrypted format at rest, it still can be modified by the administrator or by the user himself. I can go and change my last name from Pinto to Shah. And there's absolutely no way for anybody to know that I changed my last name yesterday and then changed it back to Pinto the day after. Whereas with a blockchain, since it is irrefutable, you cannot modify that data. So that's what the blockchain is fundamentally. Now, when a blockchain, when a data source of sorts, which we call the blockchain, is available to the public, where anybody, anywhere in the world can go and look at it and access that data, that becomes a public blockchain. When you have a blockchain that is permissioned or private to an organization or entity, the public does not have direct access to the blockchain except via APIs that are exposed that allow a user to introspect the data or inspect the data if they want, but they're not allowed to go and query it, read from it, write from it on their own, based on their own desires or whenever they want to do it. So just like how nobody would take a database and put it on the public internet, nobody should put identity data on a chain that's available to the public. So if I have my data in a database and that database is on the public internet that anybody and everybody can access, that's the equivalent of a public blockchain.
Okay.
When I have the database within an enterprise or within a consortium, which is a combination of a bunch of enterprises collaboratively coming together and building something, that becomes a private or a permission blockchain.
Got it. That makes sense. Now, I have one more question for you because I know that we're about 10, 15 minutes in.
Okay.
And you already touched on it in the last explanation. I had a couple of customers, I've even had a couple of competitors kind of come by the booth and say,
the competitors always do.
Yeah, blockchain, like, they're kind of laughing at the fact that we're using it. They're like, listen, why would somebody want to do that? They could just buy our encrypted database because that should be good enough. So tell me, you kind of touched on it, just talk a little bit about why that probably isn't the case.
Yeah. The problem lies in the statement that is good enough. When it comes up to, if you look at the amount of fraud that goes on today, if you look at the number of hacks that happen, the number of data breaches, the number of identities stolen, good enough is not good enough.
Yeah.
It could be a secure database that's sitting in a vault, but if somebody has the ability to unlock that vault, get to the database and change my last name, that is not good enough. But when you use something like the blockchain, there's no possible way for anybody to tamper with that data, which makes it very different from a traditional database or an encrypted database. So when you trust the ecosystem, when you trust the chain, when you trust the data that comes from the chain, when you trust the signatures that come from it, and you have the assurance that nobody has tampered with it or has the ability to tamper with it, that makes a hell of a lot of difference. So a short answer is good enough is not good enough. Good enough could be good enough if it had nothing to do with identity data. If I was storing my movie tickets in a database and it didn't bother me if somebody else stole that movie ticket and go watch the movie instead of me, good enough.
Yeah.
But if it is something of value to me, it's not good enough. The reason I put my money in a bank account that only I can access and not in a little plastic bin outside my front door, hoping that nobody would steal from it, is not good enough.
Yeah. And I think from a security perspective, we've gone for years with it's good enough.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. In fact, I remember I don't remember. I've been told that my great grandparents actually had money under their bed, and that was their savings. So this is way back in the 40s or way back in the 50s. It probably was good enough then because the banks didn't exist, especially in the part of India where I came from.
Yeah, yes.
But it definitely is not good enough now.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So the same folks who tell you that a database is good enough, I would like to have a coffee with them 10 years from now.
That's a good closing statement.
And
like
I'll
that.
bring my jar of pet loonies and toonies
Yeah.
to pay for it.
And for those
And
of you
I hope that in 10 years' time, nobody has stolen those loonies and
Loonies and
toonies
Toonies.
in my little piggy bank.
And for those of you that are not familiar with the Canadian jargon that just happened there, a loonie is $1 and it's a coin, and a toonie is a $2 coin. So that's what we call them here. Anyway, all good. Javed,
Hey, yeah, I'm here still.
I know, right? That was a lot to absorb.
That was good. That was
It
good.
was very good.
Yeah, I like the fact that it was grounded in security, right? That definition. So we interpret blockchain in our way. We are a privacy enabling secure passwordless architecture. We don't take that lightly. We just don't throw out that combination of words for the sake of it.
Yeah,
There's a reason why
absolutely.
we do so. We have invested tons and tons of effort,
Yep.
dollars
Mhm.
into hardening the architecture.
Yeah.
There's a
And it's
reason
all
why we-
because it's built on that back end, right? We can do those things.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, Rohan, sorry, Javed, I don't want to speak on your
I knew
behalf.
it.
And Maureen,
I-
too.
Canadians.
Very
of
happy
course
for you
guys
to come
got
on
together.
today.
Who am I? And like, this is American kid, whatever.
Yeah, it's 2 Canadians against 1, Javed.
That's right. We're taking
hard.
over the world.
Tough IBA.
All right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for another adventure. We will see you again in a couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Ron.
Next
Thank you,
Friday.
Rohan.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye now.